Hello everybody, it's Beatle Dave, your friendly neighbourhood record collector, calling to you from Derby in the UK. I hope you're all well on this Sunday afternoon, well, it's Sunday afternoon here in the UK. For this video, it's took me quite a while to do this. I'm going to be doing a ranking video, or trying to do a ranking video. We did one on George a few weeks ago, so I thought we'd do one on Paul. This is only going to be from his 1970 debut up to 1979, so basically it's Paul McCartney stroke Wings albums, studio albums from 1970 up to 1979. So there's 9 albums in this ranking. As always, there's got to be something at the bottom and something at the top. I don't expect for one moment that you will agree with all of my decisions. Some of them you might, some of them you might not. It's actually harder to do this than you actually think. I could have done it and done the 80s albums as well, but I thought, well, if we do it on the 70s, and that's sort of roughly the same sort of amount of albums as we did for George. I've got to make this clear before I start. I do love every one of these albums. I don't think there is really a bad album amongst them. Some of them are slightly better than others. Some were more popular than others. Some sold a hell of a lot more copies than other ones. So like I say, it is purely just my opinions on this. It's not based on chart success or, you know, things like that, or how many million copies they sold or anything like that. It's just personally my own thoughts on how I think these albums would be in my top 9. It's not a top 10, it's a top 9. But before we start, just a quick mention, thank you to all my new subscribers. Hello and welcome, and thank you to all of my existing subscribers. I love you all. You know, you are all very, very welcome in my channel. So we'll start off with number 9 then, shall we? Remember, this is just my personal opinions, not based on anything, just what I feel like today, to be honest. I think this first one would probably be at most people's bottom of the list. Although it is a good album, there is some good songs on it, but it's not one of the best albums Paul ever released as a solo artist or as a member of Wings. And it comes from 1971, and it's Wings Wildlife. Lovely cover. It was released on Apple, PCS 7142, with sleeve notes by Clint Harrigan, who was actually Paul McCartney. So you've got Mumbo, you've got Bit Bop, you've got Love Is Strange, you've got Wildlife. That's side 1. Side 2, Some People May Never Know, I'm Your Singer, Tomorrow, and Dear Friend. Now, to me, side 2 is better than side 1. Apart from Wildlife and Love Is Strange, you know, Mumbo and Bit Bop are really sort of like throwaway songs. That's just in my opinion. Love Is Strange is a cover version of an obscure 1950s song, I believe, and at one point it was actually going to be released as a single, but it wasn't. Wildlife is a lovely song. Some People Never Know would probably have fitted onto Ram. I'm Your Singer is a lovely song. Tomorrow is a great song. And Dear Friend, I don't know if it is, but I always think that is Paul sort of like trying to make up with John on that. I don't really think it is. That's just how it comes over to me. So this would be number 9, or the bottom of my list. Still a great album though. Very, very nice to listen to. Like I say, although I don't particularly like Mumbo and Bit Bop, I wouldn't say it's a rubbish album just because they're on it. It is what it is, which is basically Wings' first ever album. And I think they didn't really have much time to record this. I think they rehearsed a few songs somewhere up in Scotland, didn't they? And then sort of like rush released this, from what I can make out. So if you look at it that way, it is actually quite a good album. So that's number 9, Wings Wildlife. Number 8, again, I don't think a lot of you is going to agree with this. I think a lot of you will think that this should be slightly higher in the listing, which maybe in another day, or on another day, it probably would be. This is Wings at the Speed of Sound. cracking album. In all honesty, it is a cracking album, and it's Paul trying to make Wings into basically a proper band, not just his backing band. So a lot of the members of Wings do vocals on some of the songs. Side one starts off with the classic Let 'Em In, brilliant song. The Note You Wrote, so song. She's My Baby, Beware My Love, which is a cracking song. And Why No Junko. Again, that is quite a good song. Side two, Silly Love Songs. Well, that was a hit, wasn't it? Big hit. Cook of the House. Well, Linda sings that. Time to Hide. Danny Lane sings that one. Must Do Something About It. Joe English is the vocalist on that one. San Fari Ann and Warm and Beautiful. The Note You Wrote is also a vocal by Danny Lane, and Why No Junko is a vocal by Jimmy McCulloch. By this time, Paul and Wings weren't on Apple. They was on Capital in the UK, Parlophone stroke Capital, and I think he was with Columbia, possibly in America. I'm not sure. It was quite a successful album in its own rights, and like I say, it had two massive hits on it with Let 'Em In and Silly Love Songs. That is the back of the cover if you don't know it. Yeah, cracking album. Like I said, I don't dislike any of these albums. I think everyone has its merits. In hindsight, this probably should have been a little bit higher up, but I'm doing it now as it is. So that is number 8 out of the 9. 1976, Wings at the Speed of Sound. Great album, by the way. Next up is, see, this is one of those where these two could have been in the opposite positions. Again, it's a good album. It is actually one of my favourite Paul McCartney and Wings albums. Although technically on virtually every one of the Wings albums, it is a slightly different lineup. Oh, yes. So this is London Town by Wings. Catalogue number was PAS 10012 in the UK, and it was on EMR stroke MPL. It's actually quite a long album, this is. It is nice to listen to. It's not one of the catchiest albums Paul's ever recorded, in my opinion, although there's some catchy songs on it, if that makes sense. So we start off on side one with London Town. Then it's Calf on the Left Bank, I'm Carrying, Backwards Traveller, Golf Link, Children, Girlfriend. Well, he gave that to Michael Jackson and he released it as a single, didn't he? And then I've Had Enough. Side 2 is With a Little Luck. That was a single. Excuse me. Famous Groupies, Deliver Your Children, Name and Address, Don't Let It Bring You Down, Morse Moose, and The Grey Goose. London Town was also a single in the UK. By the time this came out, basically Wings was just down to a trio of Paul, Linda and Danny Lane. Had quite a hard and long recording history. It was started off in early 1977, I think, and they went they rented some boats off the Virginia Islands or the Virgin Islands or something like that. Very, very nice sounding album. But like I say, on this occasion it's only number 7 in my ranking of Paul McCartney and Wings 1970s albums. But like I say, there is some really, really nice songs on it. Cracking album. It's one I've always enjoyed listening to be honest. So that, you know, like I say, it is hard to do these videos, because even as I'm doing them, I'm thinking, well, should that one have been higher or should that one have been lower? Up to 1979 now. This was actually the album released after London Town, if you don't count the Greatest Hits album, which we're not counting in this, by the way. And it's Back to the Egg, 1979. PCTC 257. MPL, it just says MPL Communications on this, although technically it's EMI. Wings' last album, and probably it's one of Wings' best albums in a lot of ways. Some really, really strong songs on it, and it's also one of the weakest albums because there's some not so good songs on it. Then Paul tries to do a bit of an ELO with orchestra, so he'd got his famous friends like Hank Williams and people like that playing along with Wings. There's some really, really good songs on it though, and then there's some quite forgettable songs in a lot of ways. So it starts off with The Reception, which is so-so. Getting Closer, brilliant song. We're Open Tonight, great song. Spin It On, okay song. Again and Again and Again, okay song. Old Siam Sir, fantastic song. That should have been a massive hit, but unfortunately it wasn't. Arrow Through Me, again, brilliant song. Side 2, you've got Orchestra Theme, which is okay. To You, so-so song to me. After the Ball, Million Miles, again, probably not the best song on the album, to be honest, in my opinion. Winter Rose, Love Awake. The Broadcast, which is so-so. So Glad to See You Here, now that one is actually quite good. And Baby's Request, which is good. Produced by Paul McCartney and Chris Thomas. Like I said, the last album released by Wings. And to be fair, you know, it's got its high points and it's got its low points. Again, I will emphasise, I do not dislike any of these albums. I play them all. You know, I love certain songs on all of them, and I don't like certain songs on all of them as much, if that makes sense. So this will be number 6, won't it? Is it 6? Something like that, anyway. 6, 7, 8. Yeah, so that's number 6 in this little list. That did actually come with like an inner sleeve as well. It's a nice album to play, but in my opinion, like I say, it is in my opinion, it's not a sort of album you'll be playing every day. Right, so number 5. Again, some people might have put this one higher in their rankings if they was doing one. But like I say, this is just my little rankings, and it's Venus and Mars from 1975. PCTC 254. With the success of this album, Wings went on a world tour that ran from 1975 to 1976. And there's actually a triple album of that called Wings Over America. Again, I haven't included it because technically it's not a studio album, it's a live album. But it is a good album. And maybe I should have put that one in, but then it would just be the studio albums, would it? Yeah, Venus and Mars. So again, very, very good album. The critics liked it and the fans liked it. Starts off with excuse me, Venus and Mars, which then goes into Rock Show, fantastic song. Then you've got Loving Song, which is okay. You Gave Me the Answer, which is a bit like Paul doing one of his 1930s numbers that he used to do with the Beatles, like Martha My Dear, or you know, something like that. Then you've got Magneto and Titanium Man, which is actually quite a funny song. Do you know, years ago I never used to like that song, but actually love it now. Then you've got Letting Go, again, fantastic song. Then you've got Venus and Mars Reprise. Spirits of Ancient Egypt, fantastic song. Medicine Jar, great song. Call Me Back Again, it's like Paul sort of like doing a When I'm 64 sort of 1930s song again. Listen to What the Man Said, that was I think that got to number 1 in America, didn't it? Treat Her Gently, Lonely Old People. Really, really nice. Moving song, and that is actually a good closing track to this album. Although, in the UK, after that, you got a snippet of a TV show theme called Crossroads, which was like a soap opera in the UK, which Paul actually did do a version of the theme song, like a rock version of it, and that plays just right at the end of Treat Her Gently, Lonely Old People. This is a gatefold as well, by the way. I would say this is one of the strongest albums that Wings ever made, a bar the two that are above it, if that makes sense. The production, the musicianship, the product overall is absolutely fantastic, and it is probably one of my favourite Wings albums. If you haven't got it, get it. In fact, if you haven't got any of these, go out and get them. They're not bad albums. You know, they're all fantastic albums in their own right. So what have we got? 1, 2, 3, 4. So, 1, 2, 4. So that was 5. So at number 4, see, some people will say, well, why have you put this so high? It's an album from 1973. Again, it is a Wings album, and it's Red Rose Speedway. I have done a feature on this I've done a couple of features on this one actually, and I do think this is sort of like the forgotten Wings album, basically because it came out just before Band on the Run. But song for song, I think this is just as good an album as Band on the Run. Don't shoot me, that's just my opinion. Catalogue number is PCTC 251, and in the UK you did get a booklet with it, which was attached to it. Later copies that came off. There's some absolutely fantastic songs on this. You've got Big Barn Bed, My Love, which again was a worldwide hit, Get on the Right Thing, which is a good song, One More Kiss, Little Lamb Dragonfly. I think that is the outstanding song on this album. Then side 2, you've got Single Pigeon, again, brilliant song. When the Night, okay song, not bad. Loop, First Indian on the Moon. Then you've got a medley of Hold Me Tight, Lazy Dynamite, Hands of Love and Power Cut. Now, Hold Me Tight is not the song that the Beatles did, it is a completely different song. Cracking album, really, really should be appreciated more by fans of Paul McCartney, to be honest, because a lot of Paul's fans don't like this album, but I've never really understood why. I've always thought it is one of his best works, to be honest. He's done a hell of a lot worse albums than this in his career, put like that. Like I say, song for song, I think this is on par with Band on the Run, although it didn't sell as many copies as Band on the Run. And I think Band on the Run will always be classed as one of Paul's and Wings' best albums, which it was, you know. So that is number 4, I think, in my countdown. 3, 2, 1. Now, at number 3 is an album from 1970, and it's simply called McCartney, or as a lot of people in the VC are now calling it, McCartney 1. It's never ever McCartney 1, it was just McCartney. Then you had McCartney 2 and you had McCartney 3, but this was never ever known as McCartney 1. Released on Apple shortly before Let It Be, wasn't it, I think. A gatefold. And this is where Paul sings and plays all the instruments. It is a completely solo effort, apart from some backing vocals by Linda on a couple of the songs. And again, song for song, it is a cracking album. You've got The Lovely Linda, That Would Be Something, Valentine Day, Every Night, should have been a single in my opinion, Hot as Sun, Glasses, Junk, Man We Was Lonely. Then on side 2 you got Ooh You, Mama Miss America, Teddy Boy, Sing Along a Junk. The outstanding song on this album, in my opinion, Maybe I'm Amazed, again, should have been a single, I think. And then Queen Akira. So that would be number 3 in my listings today. Another day, it could be number 4, it could be number 1, it could be number 9. Don't know. Cracking album though. A lot of these songs on here do sound like they could have been on the White Album or Abbey Road or even Let It Be. And I think Junk and Teddy Boy, well, I know Teddy Boy was actually a recording was attempted of the Beatles during the Get Back sessions for that, and I think Junk was either attempted at the end of the White Album sessions. I think, I could be wrong. Cracking album. Some people call this the cherry cover as well, because these are cherries apparently, but we've always known it in the UK as just McCartney. Right, so what's going to be number 2 and what's going to be number 1? Yeah, even now I'm deciding. Now I'm going to go with my original plan, which I don't think a lot of people are actually going to agree with this, but it's my channel, so I can put number 1 what I want and number 9 what I want. I don't think you're going to agree with this. At number 2 I've got the Classic Band on the Run. A fantastic album. In fact, I can't fault this album. Really, there should be 2 number 1s and no number 2, if that makes sense. It was a very, very tight decision as whether this was number 1 or the one that I've got at number 1. But on this occasion, this is number 2. No particular reason why it's at number 2 and not number 1. It's like I've said before, I love all these albums. I don't dislike any of them. And on another day, this probably would be number 1. But I'm going with my original decision to put this at number 2. Again, this is when it was basically Paul, Danny and Linda as wings. So you got the Classic Band on the Run, Jet, ooh, Mrs. Vanderbilt, and that was a single in some countries, wasn't it? Let Me Roll It. Well, I always think that's a bit of a tribute to John Lennon and Plastic Ono Band. You know, it's very sort of like Cold Turkey-ish in places, and very reminiscent of some of the songs on the Plastic Ono Band, or John Lennon Plastic Ono Band from 1970. Fantastic song. Side 2, Mamunia, No Words, Picasso's Last Words, Drink to Me, and 1985. No one ever left alive in 1985 will ever know. Cracking album. Yes, I can understand why this would be in a lot of people's listings. This would be number 1. It's very, very close that it's not number 1 in my listing today, but on another day it probably would be number 1. It's Paul's masterpiece, or Wings' masterpiece, let's put it that way. Although there's only, you know, Paul, Denny and Linda on it, it is a fantastic album. And again, a lot of these tracks were actually recorded or played live on the Wings Over America tour from 1975-1976. Cracking album. Again, originals are on Apple, but it's a custom Apple label, so you have to look on the label and there's a little, will be a little Apple symbol, and it should come with an inner sleeve and a poster, which this one does, which are quite hard to find sometimes. So unfortunately today this is number 2 in my listing, which means there's only one LP that can be number 1. And again, I can hear you all shouting, well, why the hell have you got that at number 1? And I'll tell you why. One, I think it's a fantastic album. 2, this was one of the first Paul McCartney LPs I've bought. And 3, it is probably the LP I play the most out of Paul's early 70s records or albums, and I do love it. It was actually credited to Paul and Linda McCartney, not Paul McCartney, or not Wings or Paul McCartney Wings, actually Paul and Linda McCartney. And I think it is the only album that ever was credited to just Paul and Linda McCartney. It was released on Apple. It was catalogue number in the UK was PAS 10003, and it is RAM. Again, this is a gatefold. Lovely artwork on the inside. That caused a bit of controversy, didn't it, when it came out, because it shows two Beatles screwing. Some of the songs on here, John Lennon at the time thought were about him. Whether they were or not, don't really know. And it was actually produced by Paul and Linda McCartney. Side 1, Too Many People, great song. Now, is that a song against John and Yoko? Probably, don't know. Three Legs, that's another one that John Lennon thought was about him. Ramon, fantastic song. Dear Boy. See, that is the one that I would say probably is about John, but I think that's more Paul trying to show his affection for John. But then somebody says it's about Linda's first husband, so I don't know. Then you've got Uncle Albert, Admiral Horsley. Well, that was a single in the United States, and it got to number 1, didn't it? It was never a single in the UK, which I can't understand why in one way. And then side 1 finishes off with Smile Away, which is a very, very strange song, but a very, very rocky song. Rocky as in a rock song. Side 2, Heart of the Country, that's a nice song. Then you've got Monkberry Moon Delight, again, fantastic song. Eat at Home, which is probably one of the weaker songs on this album, to be honest with you. Long Haired Lady. Right, you listen to that, especially if you put headphones on and listen to it, it actually sounds in places like John Lennon is singing backup vocals. It's not, it's just the way it's recorded. And you could actually imagine the Beatles singing that one. I don't think it was ever like recorded or, you know, sung or rehearsed with the Beatles. Cracking song though, to be honest. Then you've got another version of Ramon, and then it finishes off with The Backseat of My Car, which again is a fantastic song. Very much in the sort of like vein of Eleanor Rigby, and Another Day, which was recorded during these sessions but wasn't on this album, by the way. A great album. And if I had to pick a favourite Paul McCartney song, LP, this would actually be it. Like I say, a couple of reasons why. One, it was the first Paul McCartney LP I ever bought. Second, it is a fantastic album. Really is a fantastic album, and I just love it. And it's the one I play the most out of all these albums we've looked at today. This is the one that I play the most. Although it's nothing about the Beatles anywhere in it, it does sound very Beatley in places, if that makes sense. Which I think is why Uncle Albert and Admiral Horsley wasn't released as a single in the UK, because at the time when this came out, the Beatles were in a big sort of like lawsuit, and they was ending up suing one another to try and get out, because Paul wanted his contract with Alan Klein ripped up basically, although he never signed it apparently. So the only way he could get rid of that was to sue the other Beatles. And then he kept saying, I'm not a Beatle anymore. But if you, I mean, really, you could imagine Uncle Albert and Admiral Horsley being a Beatles song, couldn't you? It is very, very Beatley, isn't it, in ways. Which is probably why I like it so much. Again, it was on Apple. Great album, cracking album. I can't fault it. I honestly cannot fault it. I know a lot of you won't agree with this, but to me, I think this is the best album Paul ever made in the 70s, put like that. And Band on the Run is a close second. I think it's one of the best albums he's ever done in his career, to be honest, as a, you know, not counting his work with the Beatles. And even then, you know, it's a great album. That's all I can say. It's a great album. So I hope you've enjoyed this little video. It's not the video that I was going to do originally. I was going to do another one, but I couldn't find something, and because I couldn't find it, the video wouldn't have made sense. So I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope if you've stopped to the end, thank you very much and well done. As always, thank you to everybody that is liking, subscribing and leaving me comments. If you've liked this video, just do me a favour and leave me a thumbs up, because that helps with the YouTube aneurysms or whatever they're called, that word I can never say. That helps to promote the channel a bit as well. And if you are subscribed, hit the notifications button as well, because if you haven't hit that, then you get notifications from when I'm doing new videos. And that's going to be it for today. So whatever you're doing, please stay safe. This is probably going to be the last video until I don't know. You won't get one next weekend. I'm back at work tomorrow, and we've got something planned for next weekend. So you might get one sort of like Wednesday or Thursday, like a week on Wednesday or Thursday. All being well, it will come to light why I can't do one next week at some point, or next weekend. So until then, just please stay safe. Remember, you are the Beatle Dave. Without you lot out there isn't a channel. I love every one of you, and I do mean this. I'm not, you know, being big-headed or being smarmy or anything like that. I do love you all. It's like we're all part of one big family now. You know, some of you are proper friends now, even though we've never met one another, because we communicate through comments and stuff. We're friends. So, you know, I always think about every one of you. Peace, love and happiness to you all. And like I say, until the next time, which will probably be about a week and a half, shall we say, yeah, to the next video. It's Beatle Dave wishing you all peace, love and happiness. And cheers. And remember, I love you. Bye-bye, everybody.